Hey, what's up travelers? Chris here with another review. I'm really excited about this one. As you could already see in the title, we are going to talk about Finnair's new business class. And there has been a lot of hype around their new seat if you've been in the frequent flyer forums, especially because it is a non-reclining seat and the question is, can it actually work? So let's see. We prepare for boarding and today our flight takes us from Helsinki all the way over to Haneda in Tokyo. It is around a 13 to 14 hour flight. It takes a bit longer as they still have to circumvent Russian airspace. And so we were actually flying for this trip on the south of Russia over Afghanistan, over China, over South Korea. Now in terms of pricing, unfortunately I only saved the cash fare for one-way use of around $3,000. I don't think that's a fair comparison. You should always look for a return trip price, but nevertheless, maybe that gives you a bit of an idea of how much this costs. For this flight, Finnair is using a brand new A350-900 extra wide body plane, and it comes in a 3-class configuration, meaning you have a little bit of a premium economy section in the middle and then 30 business class seats in a 1-2-1 configuration. And for me, for this flight, I took seat 7A. And here you can see the new seat. They call it the Air Lounge, and it's actually a fairly customized seat that you don't find in a lot of other airlines. It also comes with this very big screen that's right in front of you. And also, for me personally at least, I love the color scheme of Finnair, this dark blue with these like Scandinavian light wooden tones. It looks super modern, it looks very comfortable. I think it works fantastically. Before takeoff, I then had the chance to get a bit more familiar with the seat, but more importantly, first of course there's a serving of champagne. In this case it's the Joseph Perrier Cuvée Royal Bru, which is around $50 a bottle, and it was actually quite delicious. More importantly, since it was Sweden in winter, it was not only dark, but there had to be some de-icing on the plane done before we could actually take off. One more thing before we get fully into the review is that because it's a winter flight, most of the flight is actually dark, and so it was very hard for me to get really good looking footage because most cameras, at least small ones, struggle really hard with the darkness. So I tried my best, guys. Apologies for the video quality at some points. It was really tough to get it done. But anyway, our plane is now preparing for takeoff and we start into the night sky of Stockholm. So then, right after takeoff and after reaching flight altitude, we got some salted almonds as well as the signature blueberry juice. I love this drink. This is a Finnair special. Okay then, let me talk about the entire Finnair flight experience. And first I want to highlight the screen. I really love this screen. It's a touch screen. You can easily reach it. You don't have to move forward too much. It's very comfortable. It's also working already with movies, even when the airplane is still on the ground, which I love. As well as having these infotainment systems where you get told when the breakfast or the next meal will be, and you can easily pull up the drink and food menu for each meal. It's really a good idea. It's simple, but I really like it. Overall, this is quite comfy to lounge in, and as you can see here from this view, you have a lot of space. The screen is taking up a lot of your field of view. And as you can see here also that movies work on the ground. Why does this not work for all airlines? I absolutely love this. Maybe my bar is too low, but this is nice. Overall, you can see here a little bit of the leg room I have. I'm 6'3" or 1.90 m, and I had absolutely no issues. You also see how this shell of the seat is kind of warping around you and giving you a really private space. And while this is not a closed suite like on other airlines, I have to say I had absolutely no issues. I found the privacy to be fantastic, especially in those window seats. I could hardly see other passengers. It felt really cozy and private. Overall, also because in the middle aisles there are no luggage compartments, it makes it very airy and bright, as you can see here. So overall, it feels fantastic. I love this cabin, and The only downside I have to highlight, and this is something I've already experienced on my Thai Air business class flight as well, review you can find on my channel, is that the seatbelt is quite high up, which means that it actually presses against my neck, and I felt it to be really uncomfortable. So most of the flight I was actually not using the seatbelt. Not a recommendation, guys, but just as an FYI. To the left of your seat, besides the reading lamp, you have this little compartment for the headphones, as well as a little controller. Maybe you can use that for games, I guess, because the touchscreen is perfectly fine. There's the headphone access, as well as some charging ports, which is great. I wish this little headphone area had a little bit more storage room where I could actually store more of my things during the flight. I always like this peace of mind of having my things safely secured, but you can see, especially with all the plastic from unpacking the slippers and blankets and whatnot, it really adds up and fills up quickly. One thing to highlight, you not only get USB-A but also USB-C. I think that's fantastic and really future-proofing this cabin. In terms of the headphones, I tried them for quite a while and the noise cancelling is not very impressive, but at the same time they are fairly comfortable, at least to my ears, so even after wearing them for 4 to 5 hours I did not feel any pain on my ears, so overall that's quite decent. However, even with all this padding and whatnot, I always prefer to wear my AirPods. Nowadays, I feel like the noise cancelling is good enough for most flights, and at the same time it's just way more comfortable. You can see here then the standard lounging position if you use the seat. You have a really big footwell, but you have to sit at a slightly angled position, just like with the Singapore Airlines business class seats, for example. There's also on the left side a little bit of a storage box, and I really liked it because there was already a bottle of water from the get-go. I think that's always nice to have. There's also a compartment for your laptop. You can put other things in there. So overall, this is quite nice. It's just very deep, so some of your stuff will drop in quite deeply. But anyway, I always love to have storage around my seat, so big thumbs up. As mentioned already, I really love the colors and it just feels so modern, this seat. You also have these very nicely feeling metallic buttons that control the table, that control a bit of your seat, this little footrest as well as the light. And I have to say it works super well, no complaints there. If we have a look at the table that you can slide out, I have to say it's quite okay. It's big enough for my use case of putting an iPad or a laptop on there and get some work done. So that's great. You can also slide it out of position a little bit to even get out to the toilet, for example, get out of your seat, even when the table still has something on there. Another nice addition is on the left side of the table, you have a little wireless charging area. I love the idea, however, as you can see here in this clip, it took me quite a while to get the right position and you have to get it just about right to make it work. So, nice idea, but still not absolutely perfect. However, at the bottom, at the foot area of the seat, you also have a full power plug with international kind of plug type, so you can plug in whatever you like. You can see also in general, you get 2 to 3 windows depending on which seat you're at. And to me, that's plenty. It felt quite spacious. It felt like a nice cocoon that I did not want to leave at all. One thing I want to highlight is that in a lounging position like this, you can actually quite comfortably put your feet on the leather footrest here. And this is a big complaint I had with the Singapore Airlines business class seat, and I think Finnair solved it in a much better way here. Alright then, let's pop on a movie and let's take the proper resting position. Let me show you how it works with that seat. First, you have to electronically put up this little footrest that you can control from underneath the table on the side. That's perfect. You then have to still manually with a handle kind of put up this little gap filler here to make it a really even surface. With that in mind then, it's actually quite comfortable. Again, there's a slight angle, but it's not as bad as with some other seats, and it's just really a massive area. You can see it here in my normal sitting position. There's so much space in the footrest still, because of course the seat is not reclining, so it needs to already be as long as it needs to be for the sleeping position. So that is quite a nice feeling. To your seat there are then already blankets, a pillow and also slippers and an amenity kit. The slippers were quite nice and comfortable. The amenity kit is fairly small, and again that's something that I guess a lot of airlines are going for in the terms of sustainability, although I feel like it's more of a cost-saving thing. Anyway, this amenity kit is created by Marimekko, a very famous Finnish design brand, together with Finnair, and like the design or not, I think it's quite nice. In the amenity kit you then have a sleeping mask in a matching pattern, you have a reusable eco bamboo toothbrush, and you have some information material basically and some earplugs. So then, around 1 to 2 hours into the flight, dinner was being served. And again, from this handy little menu on the screen, you could easily pull up the food menu and the drinks menu to see what actually would be served here. In my case, that was, as starters, some cold wasabi salmon rolls with apricot miso and some roasted beetroot with beef root puree, beef root mousse and goat cheese cream. That's a mouthful. As well as a beef chuck roll with potato gratin, chorizo ragu and black currant sauce. Jesus. But let's see what we're actually getting. There is some tablecloth service, which is nice. However, actually it took quite a while for them to then come back with the food. Nevertheless, the service was alright, and after a little bit of waiting, the food finally appeared. It all comes on one tray, so you don't have multiple courses that come one after another. There's of course a wine option. In my opinion it was fairly normal, good wines, but I'm no expert on that. You also have some warm breads, multiple ones if you want. So here you can see the food, and I think it looks quite pretty. So I would say that this looks like a really good way of presenting the food. Compared to some of my other flights, especially Thai Air, I have to say I prefer this way more. And it looks nice, and it also feels like it's a bit of a Scandinavian dish with these root vegetables and the fish. Overall, I have to say the starters were great and they tasted delicious. The main dish, however, was quite disappointing, I have to say. And this would also be one of the main points where I can see Finnair still improve. After the main dish, there were then 2 options for the dessert. I chose this little blueberry cake, and it was fine, I have to say. Nothing to write home about, but it was alright. Overall though, and I think that's important to some people, I have to say that the service was very efficient. You only had 30 seats in business class, and so I guess they can bring out the food and clean it up again quite quickly. So if you want to go to sleep, I think they did a great job here. Even though at this point it was quite dark outside on the plane, I decided to pop on a movie and try to relax in this seat. So let's see how that goes. I have to say it's quite decent actually. I expected it to be much worse because you don't have this kind of relaxed position, this reclined position that I usually like on airplanes for lounging around. But to be honest, with the pillows and the padding, somehow it works. I can't put my finger on it, but somehow it does actually work quite well. So then, the bigger question is, and we move here to the sleeping area, you can see how you move it from a seat position to a bed. Does it also work as a bed? The good news is that it's not too complicated to put this seat into a sleeping area. You unpack this little kind of mattress cover and the blanket, you put everything into position, and that's basically it. Now, one thing I want to highlight is that this mattress topper is not super thick. It's in no comparison to, for example, Japan Airlines Airweave mattress toppers, for example. This is really just a little bit, but overall, to be honest, the padding was still quite good. I believe that all the leather and the seat padding really helped with that. As well as giving 2 pillows is quite nice. One was a bit firmer, one was a bit harder, so at least for me it worked really well. I like the decor again for the blanket and the pillow. Again, this is coming from Marimekko, the Finnish designer brand, and I think it also fits beautifully into this whole kind of design scheme. In regards to space when you're sleeping, I have to say it's quite good lengthwise. So again, I'm 1.90 m and I had still plenty of space in the footrest. However, the way you can sleep is a bit limited. You can see here as a side sleeper in this position, it's perfect, and I think that's also how it's meant to be, with your back to the aisle. If you sleep on your back, or if you try to sleep on the side but in the other direction, it's a lot less comfortable. It's still really decent, I have to say. I don't have a lot of complaints. It's just very narrow in the beginning of the footrest for your legs. So if you don't like that feeling, then you might not have the best time. But overall, it's absolutely fine. One downside of this seat is that the screen is fixed in place, and you can see it here if you actually want to lie down and watch a movie. It's quite tough. The viewing angles are okay for the screen, but it's just not super comfortable to look at a slightly tilted away screen. You can see it here a little bit. It's not great, but it still works to some extent, I would say. As I generally usually don't sleep much on airplanes, as we were flying over China, I decided to wake up and actually see the sunrise out of the window. It was beautiful. There's also this cool clip I filmed of another airplane going basically parallel to us. I think that looked really cool. I decided to go back into lounging position, and I still have to say, even after 7-8 hours on this flight, that the experience was really great in terms of lounging comfort. I really did not expect this, and it somehow works. I don't know how, but it somehow works. They were actually handing out a little bit of snacks during that time as well. You could go to the galley, you can see a little bit of a selection of snacks you can take, as well as water and other drinks at all times. Unfortunately, there's no order anytime menu like on JAL, where you can also order hot soups and other hot dishes. But of course, this is also at a much lower price than these more premium airlines. There were some fruit bowls handed out. You can see here some European snacks. So overall, I was quite content, I have to say. After some light reading, it was then already time for breakfast. And you can see here the selection. I think that looks great as a breakfast. Usually I'm not too excited about airplane breakfast, but I love that you have fruits, you have yogurt, you have a lot more sweet items than I am used to, and that's just something I personally quite like. The weak point of this breakfast certainly was the coffee. That tasted pretty much like water, I have to say. But on the upside, I think the ham and cheese omelette dish was quite nice. And again, also the bread was good. Two additional points then that did not fit into any category. Here you can see the restrooms. They are functional. I like that they have a window. It was quite nice to see the daylight outside over China at some point. You also have some creams here, as you can see. I'm not familiar with the brand, but I believe it's a very local Finnish brand. On top of that, you can get internet access, and at least on that route it was quite decent, I have to say. If you have a business class seat, or you're a gold member or a One World Sapphire member, you get 1 hour complimentary. For Finnair Platinum members, this is entirely complimentary for the entire flight. Alright then, it was slowly heading towards daylight. We were flying over the snowy Seoul, which was beautiful to look at. And one more thing I would like to highlight is that I really love when the airplanes nowadays have this kind of mood lighting where they simulate the sunset and sunrise. I think that's quite nice, and I don't know if it actually helps with the jet lag, but I think it's great. So then, slowly the flight was coming to an end, and I have to say I was really happy with the decision to fly Finnair on that route. I have the somewhat direct comparison with Charles' Apex suite, and of course if it's a direct comparison I would still go with JAL because I think the overall service and the food is better. However, keep in mind that Finnair usually is priced a bit lower than these very premium airlines. So it might be worth it, especially if you're not too focused on the food, to go for this product. Overall, I have to say the non-reclining seat works perfectly. That's absolutely no problem. I love that it's a super modern product, which means that you don't see any wear and tear. The touchscreen is super responsive and big. You have lots of charging. You have, I think, enough of storage space, and I cannot really complain much about anything besides the food. I think the crew was a bit on the cooler side, but very professional, and they did a great job. They were quite efficient, certainly not in line with, let's say, Asian hospitality, but still nothing that actually bothered me in any way. And as we were touching down in Haneda Airport in Tokyo, I have to say this was a very enjoyable flight, and I can wholeheartedly recommend it, especially if you have some miles to burn. This can be a very good use of them. So that's it from my side pretty much, guys. If you've had the chance to fly the new Finnair Business Class, please share your thoughts below. I would love to hear how you perceived it and what you liked and disliked about it. Overall, looking at different websites on travel and reviews, my impression is that mostly people quite like the Finnair Business Class. It's overwhelmingly being positively reviewed. I'm not surprised. I think it's really solid, and I think if you know of the drawbacks that you will encounter and you don't mind them, then this is really a kind of a no-brainer almost. So I'm really happy that I could try this seat out finally. And that's it from my side, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.